Yeah, first a few words about the SGAC, for Space Generation Advisory Council, which is basically a global non-governmental, non-profit organization, which is then a global network aiming at representing students and young space professionals to the United Nations, the UN, to space agencies, to the industry or academia. So basically, we are all between 18 and 35 years old. And from more than 150 countries, and in total more than 15,000 members. So that's quite impressive. We are a mostly based volunteer-based organization, managing and organizing different events per year, like more than 40 events. And to attend these events, we propose sometimes scholarships for that event, or sometimes for other space-related ones. That's very interesting too. And what we do, basically, we have also different project groups depending on what you like in space. It can be space medicine, space exploration. I'm sure that Ilaria can have a few words about that later. Space medicine, yes, CubeSat, laws, ethics, and the last but not least, Our Giant Leap, because, well, that's about to be one of our new project group here. So what is now Our Giant Leap? Nicolas, that's your turn.
Yes, thank you, Guillaume, for presenting SGAC. So Our Giant Leap is an initiative part of the SGAC. It's been created on the summer 2019. And the main goal is to make the aerospace sector more inclusive and more diverse. So we work through 3 long-term projects. One of them is encouraging people, and especially women, to apply to the ESA Astronaut Selection. So this webinar is, of course, part of this long-term project. But we also organize events, like last September in Toulouse, we organized the SG France 2020, which was about making the aerospace sector more diverse and inclusive. We also prepare online contents like videos, podcasts, but also other webinars to present you people and women from all over the world working in the aerospace sector. We've been in partnership with organizations such as the French Space Agency, CNES, and other institutes and universities. And we do have a magazine. We issued our first magazine on the 8th of March, last March, was the first Our Giant Leap magazine. So lots of contents, and the main objective of the project about the astronaut selection is to promote the astronaut career to women and to young girls too, even if they are too young to apply. It has to be something in their mind that they know it's not unreachable, it's possible to make it, and it's not a male-only sector. We support also the development of research related to women astronauts, and our global goal is to increase the number of women applicants to the astronaut campaign. In 2008, the last ESA Astronaut Selection Campaign was only 16% women, and we'd like to increase this number the highest possible, I would say. So this is the final webinar of our series. We had the first webinar two months ago about why do we need more women astronauts. Maybe some of you follow it. Then the second webinar, beginning of April, on tips to prepare your application. And so this is the third and final one. We're going to present 4 people who are deeply committed into science and who would like to be an astronaut. They're probably going to apply, and maybe 1, 2, 3, or all of them are gonna be part of this of the next generation of European astronauts. So that's what we're gonna see. Before introducing our speakers, a quick comeback on the Slido. Oh yes. So the application, as you know, is open since the end of March and will be open until the end of May. So you still have time to apply. And as you may know, ESA is going to recruit 4 astronauts, but also 20 people from a new group called the Reserve Astronauts Group. and also people from a new project, which is a Parastronaut project, because ESA is willing to send someone with disability to space. So this is, we think, great news for the European Corp, Astronaut Corp. And so yeah, a quick comeback on the slide though. We are a bit curious and we want to know, we'd like to know how many of you are going to apply to this selection. So the next question is, have you or are you going to apply to the current ESA astronaut selection? Whoa. That's really nice, really interesting. Maybe we're gonna call ESA and ask them for a bigger number of people, because 4 is way too little. Not yet, but thinking about it, I hope. All right. Great, thank you for your answers. Another quick question for our statistics. Maybe some of you followed the previous webinars. So we're curious to see if this is the first one you follow, or if you had followed the previous one too. Okay, that's nice, great. So we're gonna now give the floor to our speakers to allow them to present themselves. So I'm gonna go back on the slides. So I'm really happy to welcome these 4 amazing people: Dr. Jackie Bell, Dr. Lucy Rogers, Dr. Elias Nelly, and Dr. Cyprien Verseux. They all agreed to be part of this webinar. And without further ado, I'm gonna let Jackie present herself. So Jackie, if you wanna share your screen.
Yeah, it won't let me share while you're sharing. So
yeah, maybe.
Let me share. Okay, let me try now. Yep. Perfect. Okay, so brief introduction. So this is me, I'm Jackie. I'm originally from Liverpool. I'm currently a senior teaching fellow at Imperial College London. I was the first in my family to go to university, and I graduated from the University of Liverpool with a bachelor's and a master's degrees in mathematics and mathematical sciences, and I stayed on and did a PhD in theoretical particle physics, which I graduated from in 2016. I've also got a background in youth and community work, which I've worked in for 12 years. And I've also been a competitive cheerleader, both internationally and nationally, and a coach as well. Now, in 2017, I took part in a BBC documentary series called Astronauts, Do You Have What It Takes?, where I was selected with 11 other candidates from across the UK, from 3,000 people, to undergo mock astronaut selection. And just a few of the things that we did were hover in a helicopter, learning how to take our own blood, playing with or carrying out a mission with the prototype ExoMars rover down at Airbus, and dunking ourselves underwater and escaping from a vessel, something I didn't particularly enjoy and probably the most challenging part for me. But after that process, it was a great insight into what astronaut selection is about and the types of mental, physical and psychological tests that are involved. And since then, I think I've probably been more driven to pursue this goal. having found my flaws and tried to work on them over the past few years, I started learning to fly in 2018. I'm about halfway through my pilot's license now and hoping to resume after COVID restrictions are lifted. And following the show, I've been able to do more outreach, something that I love and that I was passionate about before being on the television and while I was at university. And this has involved talking to lots of young people about space science, maths and physics. And just prior to lockdown, I was able to go to the Royal Air Force's brand new centrifuge, human centrifuge in the UK, where I got spun to 4.5G because I didn't quite get up to that point in the programme. So it was really kind of them to let me have a go of their brand new facility. And yeah, just to sum up, I'm looking forward to applying this year. And yeah, let's see how far I get and see if I get a little bit further. And if I have now, with some improvements, got what it takes. Thanks.
Great, very great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jackie. I think I have already a first question for you about this experience through the BBC. Do you have what it takes? What did you learn from this experience, and maybe what's your best memory from it?
Yeah, I think the best thing for me was meeting all of the other people, because I think I'd grown up with this dream of becoming an astronaut, which wasn't really supported by the teachers and the adults and my friends. They thought it was a bit of a wild dream. And then to suddenly be put in a situation where everyone around you has that same passion. They're all high achievers. They all dream of going to space. I think for me, that was quite an inspiring moment. And I think the biggest thing that I learned was that everything is a test. Even if you're told it's not a test, everything is a test. And you have to think about, not just if you're doing a memory test, for example, it's not just about remembering the numbers. It's about other things. It could be about your balance. It could be about your multitasking. It could be something on a more psychological level, the way that you behave when you recall information, all these things that you have to consider.
Great, that seems like a fantastic experience. And did you train ever since? Like, did you carry on doing some of these things? You talked about flying the helicopter, maybe?
Yeah, so learning to fly was a big thing because I didn't think that someone like me from my background would ever get the opportunity to even be in a helicopter, let alone learn to fly myself. I didn't think it was kind of, affordable for me to be able to do something like that. So that's been something that I've kind of saved up, and that's why I'm learning part-time. And I would say anyone who's thinking about flying, yes, definitely do, because it's the most amazing feeling, and it's definitely doable if you kind of save and work things out around work and stuff. But yeah, I've also been trying to learn languages because I know that was one of my weaker points, and so I've been trying to learn Russian. So I've probably gone in head first with one of the most difficult languages, but yeah, I'm slowly getting there.
Great. That's really great to hear. Thanks a lot, Jackie. Now I'm gonna ask Lucy if you wanna present yourself. I'm gonna share. Actually, I'm gonna share your slide right here. Okay, Lucy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think older than the other speakers. I actually applied back in 2008. So my history, I did a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I was a sponsored student at Rolls-Royce Industrial Power Group, so I got to play with power stations. I then carried on working in industry for a bit, and did an advanced course in design and manufacture and management, which let me go down a coal mine. So we've got a photo here, top middle of me actually down the coal mine. So that was a very interesting experience. And also right underneath that one at the bottom in the white lab coat, there's me working at a hydroelectric power station. So 2007, I then did a PhD in industry. I got a 2:1 in my bachelor's, and when I finished my PhD, which was writing up the work that I was doing at work, my supervisor turned around and said, "You were never one of the ones we put down for getting a PhD or for doing a PhD." So I wasn't the high-flying academic. 2007, I wrote a book called It's Only Rocket Science, and I wrote this because I was doing a little bit of work with one of the SpaceX companies. Sorry, not SpaceX, X Prize companies. And I knew an awful lot about the little bit that I was involved in, and I didn't know how it all worked. And I just wanted that readable book without all the maths to have to go through. So I actually ended up going through the maths so that I could write the book. So I applied. That came out just as the last application process was going through. So I applied thinking that in my innocence and naivety, that having written a book on rocket science and having a PhD and having done quite a few of these other things, that I was in with a good chance. So I probably didn't put the correct effort in the right places. And now reading back through my motivation letters, through my CV, through the application, I can see why I wasn't selected. So things that I've done since then, I've done the Ray Mears bushcraft courses. So Ray Mears is a bushcraft expert on the TV. He runs some courses. I've been on those, so you can see me in a leaf shelter that I've made. I've worked with robot dinosaurs at a theme park, and there's me in China riding on a little toy dinosaur on the left. I make things. I make all sorts of things. This is my lab, and I've also made gravity carts, go-karts. I was a judge on Robot Wars, and I've done a zero-G flight. So you can see that my career has been a little bit diverse. I'm now a visiting professor at Brunel University in London, talking to the engineering students about creativity and communication skills. And I also run my own innovation and engineering consultancy. So that's basically me in a nutshell. I do a lot of talking.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. That's really interesting, and I can see that creativity is something that drives you. So I guess you think it's something really important to be an astronaut. Or how would you define it?
I think it's going to be more important in the future. At the moment, if anything goes wrong, basically you call back down to Earth, and there are thousands of experts who can then put the time and the effort in while you're actually dealing with anything that needs dealing with. But going to the moon is longer time delays. Going to Mars might be even longer delays of getting information back from the experts on Earth. So I think actually having to think on your feet may be more important in the future.
Yes, I can think about the movie The Martian with the main character being trapped on Mars and having to invent new ways to live and wait for people to rescue him. So yeah, I can see that happening really well. Thanks a lot, Lucy. Gonna go now to Ilaria, if you wanna present yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for organizing this event. So I'm gonna share my screen right now.
Yes.
And I cannot do it for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
I can't. But it doesn't really matter. No worries at all. I mean, I can just go. I can fly solo. You know, like so. That's
as you want, or
I can't. So I would rather share some.
Oh, I think we lost you.
Nicola, I can suggest that you stop sharing your screen so that Ilaria can share.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Ilaria, can you try now?
Of course. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my website. It's a really bad website. And the reason is because I just want to have something out. I didn't have time to work on that. So, but you can find like a dot list of stuff that I've done and who I am and so on and so forth. And then you can get in touch with me through my LinkedIn profile, which is this one where I used to have longer hair. But still, get in touch with me on LinkedIn. That works all the time. So I am interested in space. I don't know how to define myself, to be honest with you. I do have 3 degrees, a bachelor, a master, and PhD in biomedical engineering, and then a postdoc in the United States, and now I work in autonomous missions, both crewed and unmanned. And so, which is it's quite broad, but I'm still you know, on the side I am active in human rights through the United Nations, and you know, so I do a bunch of different things. For example, I do lots of mentoring and you know, research on the side, and I work with different startups. You know, there is no really the right way to get in space. There is no a right career path. It depends on what you like to do and the question that you ask to yourself. You know, I am an Italian citizen, and at that time when I was doing the university, my goal, my future, I mean, there was nothing about space. So I came to space just because I asked myself a few questions I couldn't answer, and I gradually became, you know, interested in the field. And but you know, like Italy at that time didn't have so much opportunities for students. Okay, we are talking when I was doing the bachelor was like 2006, 2009. So back in the days, like internet connection wasn't something like we have today. There was no social media, no LinkedIn, no Facebook. No, well, actually, Facebook, there was Facebook, and but still, like, it was really hard. So basically, I had to make the case for myself all the given time, which it was hard because of the language, because of different types of limitation. But you can make it through. So what I found out in all my life and all the adventures of my life, I've lived everywhere, and I'm not, you know, I'm very international. But basically, the message is that if you have passion and you have, you know, a defined goal, that you can make it through. You might won't have a very standard career path, but you can make it through and you can contribute to space. That's what's matter, and you can still be part of the space sector. And so that's more or less myself. I became an accidental icon when because I've been taking part in so many analog missions, and I have other on hold because of COVID, and you know, I'm expanding, and which is a very fascinating things. And I have to right now to write a bloody cover letter for the astronaut selection, because this is in my list to do things. And so this is me. It's just someone who is interested in space. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ilaria. That's really interesting. I can see you're involved in lots of organizations, the Mars Society, the United Nations Office for Outer Space. From all this experience, what is the lesson that you learned from that? Did it help you in your willingness to become an astronaut?
So there was a question. Yes, I do have a full-time job, by the way. Yes, it's autonomous missions. I work on autonomous missions with people, without people. That's my job. So it helps, you know, like analog mission really help, but it's really depend on how you like approach analog mission, because it can be a space camp, for example, or it can be a real space mission. But I think the key part of all of these is being able to do teamwork, to connect with people, to try to look at topics or parts of the mission from a different perspective, just to have a multidisciplinary approach point of view. It's not just about putting the helmets on and just going to the desert. When I trained my member, like as commander, I had to take a legal responsibility, which is mean that for the law of the states of the country, if I do something wrong and I say something wrong to my crew, I can get sued or some other like issues with you know, criminal law. So it's pretty serious stuff. But still, it could help. But what I like to say is that regardless if you have a previous analog experience, you can apply to ESA for sure. because I do not think they value such experience so much. And the reason is because they are independent from, a government for running astronaut training program. And therefore, if you have not had the chance to take part in any of those missions, then no worries, just apply. It's not a fast track to have access to the astronaut selection. Those are two independent things. That is my value in some ways. I have no idea, no clue, so I cannot tell you. But it is an experience. So let's say that.
Yes, yeah, that's really inspiring. Thanks really a lot, Ilaria, and thank you for all your answers. Now, Cyprien, do you want to share your screen to present yourself? Yes. Great. You can start. Thank you. We can't hear you yet. I think you're muted. Can you?
Yeah, I think I could not unmute myself when after I started sharing for some reason. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, then I will tell you a little bit of. Oh, that's in the right window. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, and for that I would like to start a few years ago. That's me at that time. Maybe you don't recognize me, but that's because I didn't have a beard yet. And at that moment, if you had asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I would probably have said, I want to be a searcher for life on other planets. But some grown-ups told me that that was not a real job. So I became more realistic, and I decided to be a biologist explorer. So I gathered that it meant that I had to become a biologist first. Of course, I had to wait a few years. They would not take me at the university at that time. But eventually I got 2 master's degrees, one in biotechnologies and the other one in systems and synthetic biology, which is basically genetic engineering. And then when I finished this master's, I wanted to join the space area. And it turned out that searcher for life on other planets was actually a real job. So okay, people usually don't call it that way. People tend to use the term astrobiologists, but it's basically the same thing, and it's what I wanted to do. So I contacted the head of a laboratory at NASA, and what I said was along the lines of, hey, I'm doing synthetic biology, and I think it would be very useful for spaceflight. Here, the project that I designed, can I come and do an internship with you? And I was very surprised not to have an answer. And so I emailed again and again, and finally they granted me an interview, and I somehow ended up doing my master's internship at NASA Ames in California. And it went quite well. So I continued with a PhD at a university in Rome, in Italy, where I could work half of the time at NASA in California. And during that PhD, I worked on different projects, including Expose R2, which is a NASA project for which different teams of researchers expose microorganisms and biomolecules in space outside the International Space Station to answer different questions in astrobiology. So that was the plan for my PhD, but it took a few unexpected turns. For instance, when I took part in the HICIS-4 mission, which is a mission for which I lived for 1 year in this little dome, which is 11 meters in diameter, together with 5 other people on the slope of the Mauna Loa volcano in Hawaii. And the main goal of that mission was to study the human factors of a mission to Mars. So we were living in a way which was quite analogous to a Mars mission. For instance, we had no direct communication. We had no phone, no internet, only a messaging system with a 20-minute delay in both directions. So for 1 year, we didn't see or talk to in real time to anybody outside the dome. And we were never exposed to the open air, because when we were working outside the dome about once or twice a week, we had the spacesuit simulators. So we were never exposed to fresh air or to sunlight. And we're spending our days doing research, maintenance, physical exercise, and basically things that people would do on a Mars mission. That was in 2015, 2016. And then I came back to Europe. I worked a bit more on my PhD, and then I left again in early 2018, this time to go to Antarctica at the Concordia Research Station, which is a very, very nice place to live, which is very peculiar, and in some ways a bit similar to being on another planet, for instance, because all around it, in all directions, until the horizon, and even beyond, for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, you have nothing. You have no plant, no animal, and no human infrastructure. You just have this flat, white desert of ice and snow. And for 9 months a year, the crew, and we were 13 at that time, is completely isolated because the atmospheric the conditions are such that no vehicle can leave the base and no vehicle can join the base, whatever happens. Because, well, there are different reasons for that. One of them is that the temperatures get too low. They can get down to below -80 degrees Celsius. And together with the temperatures, the light will go down. There are 6 months a year when it's pretty dark, including 3 months during which we never see the sun. And I had 2 jobs. I was a station leader, and I was also doing field work in glaciology and in atmospheric chemistry. And when I was there, I also wrote a proposal which allowed me afterwards, when I came back, to join the ZARM in 2018. So ZARM, which is a research institute that you may know from its drop tower for microgravity research. And there I started a small laboratory. It's a laboratory of applied space microbiology, in which we are trying to develop biotechnologies in support of human spaceflight, notably technologies that would allow you to produce what you need on Mars from what you find there, so that we don't have to bring everything from Earth, and that Mars missions can be more sustainable. So that's about it. That's me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cyprien. So yeah, I can see you went to a desert with NASA and then to Antarctica. So how does this experience, this remote experiences, helped you in training or in your will of being an astronaut?
In my will of being an astronaut, it comforted me in the sense that in many ways it was similar, and I know that I really enjoyed it. So I'm even more motivated than I was before. In terms of learning, I think it trained me in many things which I needed for living in isolated, confined, extreme environments. And I'm not speaking only about the hard skills. I'm speaking also about the soft skills, like, I don't know, managing conflicts, staying motivated, helping your crewmates remain motivated, managing your energy, being a good influence on crew dynamics, and so on, all those little things that can be challenging when you're locked with people for an extended period of time.
Okay, yes, I can see that very well. Okay, thank you to the 4 of you. So now we're gonna ask a few questions, so all of you can answer, of course. First thing is, I can see that for most of you, being an astronaut comes from when you were young, and it's not something that popped in your mind like a few months ago. So what makes you dream the most of being an astronaut? Why are you doing this?
Well, I think I can break the ice. So I'm one of the person who didn't want to be an astronaut when I was young. When I was young, my dream was to be a painter, okay, and a dancer. But you probably, if you have met me in person, I'm quite tall and quite, I'm quite tall to be a dancer. So I was like, that's not going to work. So I'm not one of them.
But maybe you still dream about becoming one. So what's?
Oh yeah, I did, but because I test myself in isolation and confinement, and I felt like, oh, this is cool. I can do that for research, and I can handle my human factors. Let's say that. And I think I can do. And when I was in isolation, I felt a feeling which was quite, it's not that common, joy. I felt joy. I was so joyful that, and this joy helped me to cope with all the constraint and isolation and all of these stressors, all the operational stressors and stresses. And so I think I really would like to be one. And the reason is, like there are people who are born to sing, there are people who are born to explore. Let's take it like that. There are more probability that I'm going to become an astronaut than an opera singer. So I believe so, but still.
Okay, yes.
I'm going to jump in next then. When I was probably 17 or 18, my teacher said, what do you want to be? Write it down on a piece of paper. So I wrote astronaut just because I was flippant and trying to make a point, because at that stage, we hadn't had a British astronaut. It wasn't something that even registered that it was possible to do. I did see Helen Sharman give a talk when I was early 20s and thought it was absolutely fascinating. Still didn't give it a thought that it was going to be possible until the 2008 application, and then it was like, all systems go, I really want to do this. Yeah, when they said no after I didn't even get further than the application stage, I thought, well, I'll carry on working a bit in the space industry. I've worked in various bits with it, but never. I unfortunately didn't get my pilot's license, and I didn't get my language skills up to scratch and all those other things that would have been far more sensible if I'd actually thought that an astronaut application was going to reoccur in the next few years. But I still would love to go up there and be part of something that's global. Yeah, pan-European, but also absolutely global. And the things that we can do with space that can positively affect the lives of everyone on Earth is just something I want to play with.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Thanks.
So my story was a bit different. So I was inspired by two things, really. So firstly, the first PlayStation game I ever played was Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and I wanted to be just like her, and I wanted to be an explorer, but I was scared of spiders, so I knew that exploring on the ground probably wasn't the best thing. And I thought, where can I go where there's no spiders? So it was either underwater, where there's things that kind of could look like a spider and it's very dark down there, or space where there wasn't any spiders. And at the same time, I was watching a BBC TV show called Red Dwarf, which I absolutely loved. And on it was a character from Liverpool who ended up being the last surviving human in space. And I was really inspired by that moment of hearing someone like me on TV who was working in space, and also seeing that as an avenue for me to be able to explore, hopefully.
Great. Yes, that's a really original story, but I can understand. No spiders, I think.
Yeah. Becoming an astronaut to get as far away as spiders as you can. I like that story.
No spiders in Antarctica?
Not anymore. A long time ago. But yeah, my story is a little bit more boring. I've always been driven by exploration and science, and in my mind, the two have always been connected. When you see explorers in Antarctica, for instance, you are exploring, but just not for the sake of it. You are exploring for also, increasing knowledge, and I really like that combination. I think I was interested in space as well because, Antarctica was already explored when I was born. So like, okay, this is done. And I naturally started dreaming about other planets. And yeah, and I didn't, so it was a bit different from being an astronaut. As I said, I wanted to be a searcher for life on other planets, which I probably imagine a bit differently from what the job of an astronaut really is. And I think I started really considering astronaut as a goal and with a realistic view of it when I was in my early 20s.
Okay. And From your presentations and your backgrounds, I can see that you're all involved in public speaking and outreach. For example, Lucy, you wrote your book about rocket science. So is it something? Oh yes, great. Is it something you think it's important when you're an astronaut to be able to convey messages or to do public outreach?
Yes, the astronauts are the very obvious ambassadors for space, and to get your point across, to explain technicals or just the enjoyment or the fascination with space, and to get that across to members of the public, because it is, if we ignore the commercial space flight, it is members of the public, taxpayers' money that is helping you get up into space, and it's their money that's paying for the research. So you've got to give back, and to be able to explain what it is that you're doing is, I think, a benefit.
And yeah, I completely agree, and I would add that also you are not going to spend only on your behalf, but you, in a way, going there on behalf of humankind. So it's only fair to share the experience. And I think it would really be a pity if you had this extraordinary experience of being, in space or on the moon, and that the experience be lost for everybody else because you're not able to communicate it.
Yes, we hope to get HD pictures of the next people who go to the moon. Might be better. Yes. I
was just going to say, yeah, I agree that it's really important. I think that anyone who has any sort of influence, should become a great ambassador and share science and all of this fascinating stuff with the public. And of course, we have a duty of protecting our planet and looking for ways to better utilize our Earth and look after it in the future. And I think that if you become an astronaut, you're sort of internationally famous overnight, and people are going to listen to what you say. And so it's just a great platform to be able to, encourage people to do well and be better.
Yes, I think so too. Eli, if you want to add something.
There is different reasons for doing science communication. And I do agree with what the previous speaker said. I completely agree with that there is absolutely need. But, I believe extreme fields, or you like it or you don't like it. It's more or less black and white. And when you are willing to be an astronaut like the other speaker and myself, is absolutely black and white over there. Or you know that, or you don't know. You can't be unsure if you really want to. And I believe one of the greatest driver, it's hope and meaning. All of us have a compelling reason for applying, and a meaning that we assign to that. And so the importance of communicating even values and principles that we have, that it drives people to carry on education. And most recently, I'm doing science communication for the ESA Space for Women Network. So it's aligned to target gender equality and quality education, which is the 5th and the 4th sustainable development goal. So there are different reasons for which we want to do that. And but it's important to share. Sharing is a key part of the life. And so it has a lot of value.
Okay, well, I believe that's what you're all doing here tonight. You're starting well. Now I'm gonna give the floor to Guillaume. He has some question about your background to ask. Guillaume.
Yeah, exactly. Let's come back to present and this coming ESA Astronaut Selection. Basically, I think that question gonna interest a lot of people in our audience. Well, you are currently preparing yourself for the application process. How do you organize yourself? How do you prepare yourself? Maybe do you have some experience to share among the public tonight?
So maybe I should start. So what has really helped me has been sort of these sort of meetings that have been organised, as well as a Discord group that Lucy set up for women who are applying. And I think that's just been really helpful as a sort of sounding board to bounce thoughts and ideas off. So looking through the questionnaire, the application form, the requirements of the Europass CV, which is very new to many of us, and kind of, you know, agreeing on a format, a technique, a way that we're going to progress, and how we should tackle certain questions. And it's just really nice to have that sort of teamwork approach. So I've really valued that. But Lucy, maybe I haven't contributed as much as I should have, but I definitely have valued that. And I've also been, you know, keeping myself very busy, because I think that, you know, when we come to get tested properly and do the sort of cognitive assessment, physical assessments, it's going to be very back to back. I know that when we were filming Astronaut, it was very much a crammed schedule, and it really takes its toll on you psychologically. So I've been trying to put myself in, which has been difficult during COVID, but trying to put myself into situations which are very challenging and pushing myself to the limit to prepare for those moments if I get any further.
Thanks a lot. Very interesting, and unfortunately, yeah, a good reflection about the COVID pandemic, because yeah, sometimes we have to adapt ourselves. Thanks a lot. What about the other speakers?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
So when I discovered that there was going to be a selection back in February, I quickly enrolled on a very intense language course and have been pushing my way through that rather intensely to get my language skills up to scratch, which has been interesting, and also to get my fitness up. So I did couch to 5K because I hadn't been running. So a couple of things that I'd been doing just for myself to get further. But as Jackie mentioned, I also set up the Discord group for women helping women with the astronaut application. And this was mainly because back in 2008 and rereading my CV, my questionnaires, I put some silly things in there that if someone else had actually had a look at, or someone else who was interested and had researched the application as much as I had, they would have said, "Are you sure you only want to go to Houston twice a year?" There was a tick box. How many times a year would you go across to the States? And I thought, 2, that sounds sensible. Yep. I'll be going to Moscow, I'll be going there. Yeah, 2. Yeah, I think they probably go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year. So that probably wouldn't have helped me. And also I was a little bit overly honest in my strengths and weaknesses, which maybe someone else could have picked me up on. And some of the things just like, this doesn't make sense. So as Jackie said, looking at some of the things that we're asking, does this mean that, or does this mean something else? Or should I put this thing in that I've done? Do you think it's because when we look at ourselves, most things become normal. We normalize everything. But actually, if someone looking in from the outside sees that, I don't know, I've been teaching myself slackline over lockdown. So I walk across or try to walk across a slack tightrope. And that may be something that, you know, I think, oh, I'm just doing that for fun. But someone else say, no, you're actually persevering and you're trying something. So these are what's helping with the Women Supporting Women group.
That's a good point. Yeah, doing it with several people. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, on my side, I mean, I'm trying to take it step by step. So now I'm rather focusing on the motivation letter, resume. So I've written a first version, but I keep improving it. And I'm looking a bit at the next steps as well, looking a bit into the cognitive tests, staying healthy and so on. But mostly trying to spend most of the time I can spend on it, on improving the first step. And I don't know if I have advice for it. I mean, I'm not part of the ESA recruitment team, and I don't know any secrets, so I don't know what my advice is worth. But the way I would recommend doing it is looking at what the criteria are, simply because, I mean, there is nothing really secret about it. ESA is quite transparent about what they're looking for. And And one way of, at least my way of addressing it is thinking, okay, there is this criterion, this criterion, this criterion, and do I have any experience that either gave me the opportunity either to demonstrate that I have a relevant skill, or that allowed me to practice that skill. That's the way I'm doing it at the moment.
Thanks a lot. That's the perfect answer. Going step by step, improving the coming step, and trying to have a look at the coming steps. And yeah, thanks a lot for this very positive and inspiring answers, I think, for the public. Ilaria, if you have a few words to say.
What can I say? They have already said everything I have to say. So still, I have no tricks at all for having a fast track into the astronaut selection. It's going to be my very first time. Last time I was an undergrad, and I couldn't apply. And then I thought, okay, let's have a look to Samantha Cristofori's CV. And I was really discouraged because she is one of the most impressive person you can find out there. But still, so my plan is to keep doing physical exercises, any sort of, seriously, can be yoga, can be respiration, can be running, can be fighting, it can be any sort of it. And I am constantly do that in preparation of the analog mission. So I have never stopped. So my morning routine will be waking up, having a cup of tea, and then get into training. And this is around 6 a.m. And then start working, finish working, do some other stuff, walking, commissioning, mentoring, for example. I believe the key part is to be in touch with people and to test my teamwork relationship. And even in remote, we are blessed, I have to say, during this pandemic. And this is one of the most fortunate things that could ever happen to us. And, I will apply for sure. I do not pretend to be the best person out there. I have to say, I know people who are part of SGAC, and I think they are perfect as astronauts. So I do recognize my strengths and my weaknesses, but I do not pretend to be the best one. I think I could be a candidate, that for sure. But then, I wish to ESA to pick the very best one for representing all the European one. And I will do my best to support all the others. So I tend to work on myself, on what I consider, workable skills and things that I can improve by myself. But at the same time, I want to encourage others to apply. And it's not because I want to find more competitors, let's say that. It's because I think there is an incredible need to share hope. And if I'm driven by hope and by other values. And so I want to share those with others.
Thanks a lot for this very positive answer. That's indeed very important to encourage everyone and promote hope, especially given the current situations. Thanks a lot. Another question about this. Well, obviously you have some, maybe you have some personal doubts or fears about the upcoming selections. Do you mind sharing some of them with us? How do you tackle basically them when thinking about what is coming?
If I can't work on it, I ignore it.
That's a nice a nice tip. Thanks a lot.
I mean, I'm not really concerned at the moment. I mean, I'm more excited about the selection than scared of anything in particular. But if there was something that I would have to pick, it's the part that you don't really control. Like, for instance, a medical test, even if you feel perfectly healthy and you've not had any serious medical problem, then it might be that something that you had no idea of comes up and is a bit strange, a bit off, and then you're taken out of the selection. So yeah, I would say that the parts maybe that are unpredictable and beyond our control would be maybe the
yeah.
Yes, it makes sense. Perfectly sense.
Also, yeah, although it's wrong to worry about it, of course, because because it's beyond our control.
Yeah, I agree. It's the stuff that you don't know that's going to come up. So I guess we're all preparing as best we can, but then there'll be a few surprises along the way that might shake us a bit or throw us off a bit. And it's just being able to deal with them, I think. I know for me, after finishing the BBC show, one of the things I needed to work on was swimming. It wasn't really my strong point, and so I'm still a little bit anxious about that. But you know, I've put in the training, and I'm hoping that we just won't be asked to swim the channel or something silly, and then I'll hope I'll be fine.
Thanks a lot.
Well, building on what the others have already said, I have to say something new, so I will say, well, you know, like we are individuals. You won't be perfect. You have to do the things that you're best. You won't be perfect at all in any sort of context. And so I do think it's more important to accept our weaknesses, so that sooner or later in life you will use it. You will find out the reason for which you have these weaknesses, and if you can control them, well, you're going to end up having a surprise, and this is where you're going to challenge yourself, push yourself more, and train yourself more. So, I mean, it's all part of the same package. I'm not scared. Honestly, I'm not concerned. I do not want to obsess myself to have full control of an application which is led by ESA. So you know, it's ridiculous to think that I could have a control on that. But you know, you do the things that you're best, and then you keep finger crossed, and eventually they will work out.
I'd like to add as well that, you know, from 2008, all I had to do, I didn't get through to the first round. That's actually my goal. If I get through to the first round, I'm absolutely delighted, and then it's step by step. If I go further, that's great. But as everyone's been saying, there's a lot of things out of our control here. If you don't get selected, it may not be because you weren't good enough or anything. It just could be that's the way the dice rolled this week. Your body might not be up to it, or you just might not have something that they're looking for, but it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of what ESA think they need at the moment.
Yes, thanks a lot for these answers. Very interesting. Nicolas, I think that's your turn now to speak about the selection process.
Yeah, I was thinking about what Ilaria said about the fact that she had a look at Samantha Cristoforetti profile to see what she did and what she studied. And so I was wondering, I think you guys had a look at the astronaut profiles through the different selections. And I wanted to know if you noticed an evolution or something changing through the selections.
But I mean, if we're talking about astronaut selections in general, and not only ESA astronaut selection, I think there is a clear contrast between the early astronauts until maybe the early shuttle flights and the astronauts that are going to the ISS. Because it takes a very different personality to do a very short, very action-packed flight, and a flight where you're going to spend hours, where you're going to spend a lot of time in tight quarters, like on the ISS. I mean, you still need people who have courage, I would say, because I mean, you're still sitting on a controlled explosion that sends you to a lethal environment. But at the same time, you have to be happy being for months in tight quarters with a bit of monotony, even though it's very exciting. And so, yeah, you have to have a bit of both sides now.
Okay, so like when the time of space shuttles were different kind of astronauts, you mean? Like they were?
Yeah, in general, when you had very short missions, I think it was different personalities than astronauts that are now going for long missions on the ISS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not much more to add to that, I don't think so. Yeah, I think traditionally people who were chosen, you know, were from a military background. They were very much extroverts, and I think from what I can see now, you know, ESA are more happy to choose someone who is maybe a bit quieter, who is used to periods of being alone, long periods of being alone or in isolation, which we've all had a lot of practice of this past year. and, you know, possibly with a more introverted personality rather than those extroverts that we saw during the sort of Apollo era.
Yeah, 'cause if you need, for instance, I don't know, to always have adrenaline, if you need to go partying in nightclubs every week and so on, it might be fine for, you know, a short-term flight, but you're going to have problems in the ISS. Or if you are very difficult to live with, you know, you can probably put up with anyone for a few days, but over 6 months, then you would become a problem for your crewmates and yourself.
I've seen the difference between the last application form and this one. Last time it seemed to be if you're military with flying experience, you go down this route and you had a whole load of different questionnaires to fill in. If you're academic and you've got a load of papers, you go down this route. And I fell somewhere, well, I fell between the cracks, which is what I blame myself. I blamed why I didn't get through was obviously because I was in industry and not an academic or military. It wasn't anything to do with how uselessly I filled in the form. And this time it's a lot more open questions. They're still, you feel that they're still looking for the same sort of things that if you have been in the military, you can probably tick off a lot more simply than if you haven't. But it seems to be a lot broader in how they're asking the questions, even though maybe they're actually looking for the same thing.
Oh, well, I'm still working on my cover letter, so I mean, I've no clue about what they are asking, but thank you so much, Lucy, for telling us. And so what I'm thinking, you know, like I do write a few papers per year. One of that is in collaboration with a friend of mine, Chris, and we investigate the possibility of different types of astronauts, because we are talking about types of astronauts, which based on the work that we have done, there will be different types based on the destination, on the challenges, and especially for the task. And therefore, there won't be a commercial astronaut. There will be an astronaut who will do manufacturing, okay? There will be, I don't know, an astronaut that will be dedicated to navigation, for example. There will be sort of specialization of astronauts. And so I believe the future will be way different. So do not discourage yourself, and I won't discourage myself either. But you see, like there are plenty of opportunities. I do believe that, you know, commercial company will open up the way to more. And so this is a call released by the European Space Agency, but soon we are going to have even commercial company in Europe, hopefully. And so I believe that many can have access to, and therefore there is a hope.
Okay, yes, that's really interesting to think about the new space and maybe more astronauts going to space in the next few years. So now that you're all thinking of applying and will probably apply, we were wondering, what are you expecting from the selection process? Like, what are your expectations? Do you expect to go far, maybe not far, or maybe you will learn a lot on yourself? Like, what do you expect about this process?
Well, some good memories, I would say, because I mean, of course, the odds of a given person to be selected are very low. So I think going there with the only hope of being selected would be a bit dispiriting, I would say. But going there with a mindset of, you know, meeting new people and going through very intense, interesting experience, doing some exciting tests, and yeah, living the selection with some at worst with some good memories would be, I guess, a good goal.
I feel I've already won by meeting so many interesting people who are also applying. You know, back in 2008, I didn't know anybody else who was applying, and it was a little weird when you say to everyone, "Oh, I want to be an astronaut," and they just look at you in a very strange manner. It's very nice to have those others around you already who are also wanting that dream.
Yeah, I agree. And that was definitely the best part for me being on the BBC programme. I think, you know, we got quite a good, accurate representation of what we can expect, you know, with the experts that we had on the show and the people that were informing the delivery of the programme. but I'm going to take the exact same approach that I took with that. And, you know, I was made up just to get through that first process, and then made up to get past day 1, and made up to get past day 2. And so I think for me, it'll be more about sort of enjoying the journey as it goes, and yeah, just tackling each day as it comes.
I perfectly agree with you guys. It's one of my biggest dreams. So even getting the chance to share the dream as I'm doing right now with you is important, and it's actually very precious. Back in the days, I didn't need to have a degree, and so you know, today I feel blessed because I'm alive. I didn't have any health issue due to COVID, any sort of things. Even though I'm an EMT, for example. And now I can apply. So this is fantastic. And I'm with people who actually understand it. So receive understanding, it's a really a big thing. And so, yeah, I will just enjoy the process. And if I'm going to get through, I will let you know. If not, you know, I'm still proud and still happy. So I'm ready to make it all.
Yeah, I think it would be already fantastic to go through the first stage. So I hope you guys can all meet there and have fun and yes, make memories.
Yeah, exactly. Just enjoying each step and doing our maximum to reach the following one. Going back to well, our subject or topic tonight, what is diversity for you in a crew? Do you think that we should have more women astronauts? So what about anything coming to your mind when it comes to diversity?
Yeah, I would say that one of the big advantages, or if we're being very pragmatic, one of the big advantages of diversity, that if you have more points of view, more background and so on, you're more likely to find solutions to complex problems. Because if everybody thinks in the same way, and that's not the right way for a given challenge that comes, then you're gonna have a problem. And diversity is on the short term might be a challenge because you probably will have more misunderstandings and so on, but over the long term, I think it's much better. And you asked specifically about women. And again, it's still looking at it from a pragmatic point of view. It seems that the crews that work best are gender balanced crews. And it's very hard to have definitive answers to those questions because when you study people in extreme environments, where you always have a small sample size and it's hard to control different parameters. But it seems that that's what works best, better than mostly males or mostly females. It's a balanced group. And then of course there is the inspiration, the fact that, well, so some people will, like some girls, for instance, will easily identify with women, and will more easily become motivated and driven if there are more women in the crew. But more than one last thing and I'm finishing. I think what is most important, maybe even more than the exact number of men or women, is the fact that everybody feels that gender is not a criterion. That everybody knows that gender will not decrease or increase the chances of being selected. And I think Ida has been very clear about that.
Thanks a lot. Other ideas, answers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important to have diversity in everything that we do. So the more people from different backgrounds that you have, the better, if you're building a product, the better the product is going to be, the better it's going to be received, the more people it's going to reach. And so I think that, with the space sector as well, you need that diversity of thought, you need that diversity of experience, both culturally and, scientific or whatever the background is. I think you need all of this. So whether that comes from gender, whether that comes from ethnicity, whatever it comes from, I think it's definitely good to have diversity. And I'm really glad that things seem to be moving in that direction, with ESA, saying people with a physical disability can now apply. I think that's amazing, opens up so many doors. And I hope that in the future, the range of disabilities that you can have and that you can still apply with will increase. And again, just make space a lot more accessible for everyone.
Thanks a lot, exactly. Well, Last question, I promise, then we're gonna switch to the Q&A. Do you think, now that you know one another a bit better, do you think that the four of you will be a good crew for space flights? What do you think about that, Hilaria, maybe?
Obviously, sign us up now.
I think it would be great. Thank you so much, and I would be honored, absolutely, because they do have. We have different background. I don't know them, but I know they love space. So they're really into. So I'm really happy about diversity. I'm sorry, but I have to go back to the topic just for a minute, because I have to. So I'm sorry. But I will share right now the screen, and I promise to you that I will take just a couple of minutes more. Because I need to tell you something. And so, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay. So this is the NASA website. As a few of you know, I am part of the Space for Women network of the ESA. Okay, so this is not a network that you can join. You can apply like all of the other associations. That said, this is a network of focus on diversity. It is diversity and equality. So it's referring mainly to gender. My strategy here is that most of the astronaut selection program, they release this sort of information after. Okay, a bunch of people apply and so forth. So they quantify the number of people, okay? And then they do some statistics. They look at who is coming from engineering, who does medicine, with some other stuff. Okay, my strong suggestion, and here you can see, here you can see the one for ESA last year. My suggestion is apply anyway. Okay, if you don't meet the criteria, for example, you are not of the age or you don't have a master, my suggestion is to do that anyway. And the reason is really simple. You will get rejected, so who cares? All right, but you will be counted in the I think you will be counted as part of the final statistics. And so these numbers are used by people in policy for decision making. Therefore, if in 5 years or in 10 years, there will be another call for astronaut, probably dedicated to feasibility studies about different types of women or whatever it's going to be, those people will take decision based on statistics. So my strong advice is to let's enlarge this number for having access to space in the future. And this will not cost you money. It'll just send you. You don't even have to write a cover letter. You just go through the process, submit it. You will be rejected anyway. And who cares? That is my goal. And I really hope you may appreciate it. Still, I'm talking as individual, and I do have no control at all in the process of selection. But I know that people on decision-making policy and in expanding the human exploration program, they do account to this number. Okay, so if you want to have more European astronauts, we got to work on that. This is a teamwork. So just apply, don't care, let's get it done, and let's open up space to more people. Thank you.
This is great, really great idea. I completely agree with you. Like, if you know you're gonna be rejected because you don't meet all the requirements, you can still apply. And yeah, when they will see that 25,000 people applied, they're gonna say, oh,
But it's important that in those 25,000, for example, there will be a strong percentage of women and a strong percentage of representation of people who have disability. All right. So if you don't want to apply, but you gotta say to people who think you can meet a certain requirement to apply. So this is something that we should be in charge. So to encourage others who fit into the classification of people with different abilities.
I completely agree with this. What about the others?
My only point on that is, as I think it was Sebastian has mentioned in the chat, that 8,400 people who applied last time actually did put in their photo of their passport and get the pilot's medical, which has a cost associated with it. So getting that number up may be a little bit more difficult than actually just getting numbers to tick the box.
because it's a number listed on the website. I mean, it's listed as qualified candidates. I heard somewhere that it was a number of people who actually
on the
entire
website it is
selection
written
process.
qualify the candidates, but this is what we know. I mean, this is a reference. I can share just back to you guys so that you can see that clearly. And this is I haven't done any in-depth research for that. Okay, so probably there is some sort of literature documents or report. They share all the statistics. Here are the qualified people. Okay, if you go here in the NASA side, I have no idea if they are qualified or not. All right, and so I mean, I would suggest you to apply anyway. I mean, if you write a nice cover letter that can stimulate others to apply, let's apply. We gotta find the best in Europe for representing humanity on the ISS and on the moon. And so it's not about us, it's about humanity. This is why I honestly to you, I will do my best to make it through the final. I have no control, so I have to be fine anyway. But I want us to be representative of the best. If I'm not the best, I'm very happy to put myself on the side to let other people go. And I will be quiet now.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I agree. I hope that some of the things on the criteria are barriers, you know, the cost associated with the medical, the fact that you have to have a master's degree. I know if I would have went to university a couple of years later for the £9,000 per year, there's absolutely no way I would have ever been able to afford to go. I got my master's from, you know, receiving a scholarship, and again the same with the PhD, I wouldn't have been able to progress. So yeah, there are a lot of these barriers, and I hope that in the future there'll be a way for ESA to be able to select people not going by that master's category as well, because I think there's a lot of people who are brilliant who just haven't accessed education, higher education, for one reason or another, whether they've, you know, started a business, started a family, decided to travel, done something, you know, completely different, but still equally as or even more so impressive. I don't feel like they should be excluded. And so I hope that this again will be a criteria in the future that ESA, you know, reassesses.
And maybe one reason to apply, even if you're not qualified, could be simply to get some training and also to have an idea of, you know, if you really try to do the best application you can, then you'll see what the flaws are. You'll see, I don't know, for instance, okay, I don't have 3 years of work experience, that's easy to solve. Maybe you'll see, I know, I need to demonstrate teamwork more efficiently and so on, and that might be a way of increasing your chances for the next application.
Thanks a lot for all your answers. That was very inspiring, very interesting. Thanks a lot, Hilaria. You jumped at the right time. I think now it's time for Q&A. Nikolai, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, we've had lots and lots of questions. Yes. Very interesting questions.
Can I add one last comment on the thing? Yeah,
absolutely.
So I don't know about let's say impacts that artificially increasing the number of applications would have on space policies. I mean, I'm not qualified to judge that. I just think we should also think of people who are sorting through the applications. And yeah, having too many applications which are done with the knowledge that they are done for nothing might actually make it harder for ESA to make a good selection.
Yes, that's true.
But again, I don't know. I'm not part of the selection process. I'm just thinking that that's maybe something that would be worth considering.
Maybe they will hire more people to process the application, and so more people working at ESA. Yes, we will see. Well, thank you all for your answers. So yes, we had some very interesting questions from the chat. The first one being, what would be the question you'd like to be asked at the end of the selection process, and why?
You want the job?
Do you want the job? What would you answer?
Oh, go on then.
I think I would think it's a joke, like a friend just pulling a prank on me. I wonder actually how many times that happened, like ESA calling a candidate and being, hey, do you still want to be an astronaut? And the person being like, of course.
Yes. What about Jackie, Ilaya? What would be the best thing to ask you last if you want to be an Cyprien?
Yeah, I think, do you still want to go to space? I think would be a good one.
Yeah, something like, you know, when are you ready to go? Or do you want to bring a friend or something like that? I think would be great. So you could kind of bring someone along with you.
It would be great if they ask like, well, you know, like we're going to send you on the ISS, but by the way, probably you can go to the moon. Are you still willing to be an astronaut?
Yeah, I think the moon is like even better goal than the ISS for most of you. You would go to the moon?
To Mars.
Yeah, I would go to Mars, but I would be also quite okay with the moon.
No, okay.
As a compromise.
If you really want me to, okay. All right. Another question, coming back maybe on some doubts. What is the thing that you're the most afraid in the astronaut job? Is there something that's scaring you in the astronaut job itself?
Not yet. Maybe if you ask a question like 10 seconds before takeoff, maybe I will have a different answer. But
Yeah.
at the moment, I'm not really thinking of worrying about this kind of things.
Yeah, I've looked at the risks, and I've got a motorcycle license. I think I'm more foolhardy going out on the roads in a motorbike.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, everything is risk assessed and risk assessed and risk assessed. So wherever you're doing it, it's, although you might be a bit fearful of it, you have trust in the teams and the people who've, you know, built the rockets or the capsule that you're going to be in. So I think there will be some, you know, fear, the same sort of anxiousness or anxiety that you get when you're like on a roller coaster and you're about to go, and you do split second think, oh, what if this goes wrong? But I know, you know, you're trained for these things, and I'm pretty sure that any sort of bit of fear or doubt that you have by the time that you begin your mission, it's probably long gone.
I've also heard that the waiting is one of the worst parts. So waiting during the application process, because it's going to be over 12 months before anyone knows who is selected. But then also once you've done your first year's training, your basic training, are you going to get a flight? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? So that kind of waiting to me is probably the worst, the not knowing, am I, aren't I?
Yeah, I can understand that really well.
I think one of the greatest concerns would be using the toilet in space. It's just like I'm envisioning my life way beyond the final application, but still. No,
Yeah.
I don't have any.
I agree with that though, because it's like when Thomas showed the picture of the SpaceX toilet on his Instagram and stuff, and I was just like, how? I think there will be some initial fear there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is a course at ESA teaching you how to use it. And
yeah, I guess if they didn't do it in the beginning, they probably learned by experience that you have to train people to use it.
Yeah.
All right. Another question that came up in the chat. So Lucy, you said the first time that you didn't know much people who were going to apply, but this time, I guess you know more people. Do you, for the four of you, do you have any friends applying, and do you talk about it together? Are you working together?
No one I knew before joining the Discord and starting chats like this.
Yes.
That I'm aware of are applying. There may be people who are applying and haven't let me know yet. I think I've probably been a bit more vocal about it than many.
Yes, Jackie, did you stay in contact with other people from the BBC show? Are there other people who are likely to apply?
Yeah, so there's a few of us. I don't know if anyone's on this call actually, but yeah, there are a few of us who we've had a bit of a WhatsApp group since then, and some of us have stayed in touch more than others. Some people have kind of had their life transformed. They found other interests or other passions, and then there's some of us who are still very much passionate about applying. So yeah, I think potentially everyone will be applying. And yet we're all a bit still, unsure. We don't feel like we're at any advantage compared to anyone else. We've had that experience, but you just don't know how ESA is going to test you and what you're going to be tested on. It could be completely different. So I think, we're all the same as what everyone said today. We're just going to give it a go and see and enjoy the journey.
Okay.
I think all Europe will apply, to be fair with you. I know people, they're here now, audience, and thank you so much for staying so long. I hope to talk on the behalf of everyone, but we do really appreciate your presence. And so those will apply. I know people who will apply. I'm one of them. And let's do it, guys. We are gonna have fun.
At this stage, when they're talking about maybe 20,000 people applying, if any of the 100 or 200 people in the Discord group that I'm in get through, then it feels like, to me, a win for us as a group. And I don't see anyone in there as competition. Maybe if we get through to the last 100, 10, whatever, then maybe it might start being a bit of a competition. But until then, it's just teamwork and everyone helping each other go through.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we'd be happy for anyone that we knew who got through. And of course, whoever gets selected, everyone's going to love them and be supportive of them regardless. But yeah, I know that everyone I speak to, I'm always saying, apply, apply, apply. And I'm very much passionate about, getting someone from my hometown to become an astronaut, whether it's me or whether it's someone else. I think it would be great to have our Scouse accent in space.
Yeah, I think it would be a great feeling if it's someone indeed.
Yeah.
All right, and
are you guys applying? You are sharing about Gudel, Nicholas. Are you applying?
Yeah, I'm gonna apply.
All right.
Yes, I'm a bit too young because I've been working for only 2 years. I currently work in the French Space Agency in CNES on satellite operations. But yeah, I'll give it a go. We never know, and we hope so. And you, Guillaume?
Yeah, sure. Well, you are so inspiring and shining people. That's basically hearing you is a good additional source of motivation to apply.
Yes, indeed. We had another question for Cyprien about your mission at High Seas. You said it lasted a year, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was longer than you stay in Antarctica.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So how was it mentally to live in this closed space for a year?
Well, generally speaking, I liked it. I think it was very nice here. Of course, there were some challenges, some things that you maybe do not expect to be challenging. And crew dynamics can be a bit peculiar sometimes because, you're in a dome which is 11 meters in diameter. There was no sound insulation, so you could always, just by listening, you could know where everybody was and what they were doing. And when there were some conflicts between two crew members, then people could not avoid each other. They always had to work together, eat together, live together, and so on. And of course, there has been some tensions at time. Fortunately, it's never escalated too much. But yeah, that was maybe the downside of it at times. But generally speaking, it was also very nice to. I mean, first it felt very meaningful. And I think that's what carried us throughout the year. I think if somebody had done it, I don't know, for the money, for instance, it would have been very difficult. But feeling that you were actually contributing to future missions made a big difference. And in a way, it was also very nice to always be with some, people who are very driven, people who are very, all my crewmates had very peculiar backgrounds, and we could teach each other different things. And at times it felt a bit like a family. We had every dinner together, and so on. And those aspects were very nice. And it was also a bit meditative in some ways, because we didn't have internet, we didn't have phones, and so we didn't have all the interruptions that you normally have in normal life, where somebody's phone can ring every 5 minutes, where you'll have an email, something to take care of, and so on. There you actually had the space to let your mind wander and to think of a topic for many hours at a time. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. That's the way it comes spontaneously.
I think it's good. Guillaume, you wanna share one question you had from the chat?
Yeah, exactly. For Lucy, basically, you mentioned that rereading your motivation letter from you wrote in 2007. That you now understand why you weren't selected. Can you give us a bit more details about that, maybe?
The main things were the tick boxes of how many times would I accept flights across the Atlantic, and I chose a very low number. I've no idea what reasons I was giving myself at the time. It was probably carbon footprint reasons. And also I was overly honest in my strengths and weaknesses. For example, I had said, I am not a natural perfectionist. And I just left it there without the qualifying. And so I have learnt how to pay attention to detail, and when it's very important that I must be a perfectionist, and when I can let it go and how I can do that. So I was a bit overly honest and blunt and naive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks
a lot.
Yes, a last question for Jackie too. What was the most difficult part that you went through during the BBC show?
Yeah, for me, there was a couple of things. One, I didn't want anyone to do badly or go home, so I just got really upset when everyone went home, and it was just really emotionally draining, and I really struggled with that. And I remember the producer saying to me, Jackie, it's a competition, not everyone can win, you have to look after yourself and forget about everyone else. But I think I've always been brought up in an environment where you are in a team and you do want everyone to do well, and you do pull people up around you. So I found that quite difficult. And then of course I had never learned to swim, and so when we got asked to do the underwater tasks, I couldn't really do them to the best that I wanted to. And so I did have this very naive view that I know a lot of training happens underwater for astronauts, but I thought that you're suited up, you're in a suit, it's kind of like scuba diving. I'm very comfortable with scuba diving, not very comfortable with swimming. Are they two different things? I would say they are. So I thought that maybe I would get away with it, but I didn't, and I just wasn't nearly as strong as the other candidates. So I found the underwater task definitely the most difficult, and the basic swimming task, which I know a lot of people around the world know how to swim from a very young age. It's something that I've had to learn as an adult, but yeah, that was probably the most difficult for me.
Okay, thanks a lot. That's really interesting, and I can understand how you must have felt. And Ilaria, maybe you said you were co-lead of the SGAC Space Exploration Project Group. How the work you do through this project group is related to your astronaut ambitions?
Oh, that's another question. Well, my straight answer is that it is not. My position in SGAC is to open up opportunity, okay? So when people and members are applying, or they're looking for mentorship, or they want to do some studies, my position is to ask them what they like to do and to give them the groundwork for doing their activity. So I'm not using any of my hats, you know, otherwise it would have been a conflict of interest. SGC and the group of space exploration is about people. It's about space exploration. I'm doing this for the members. I'm not doing this for making work the member just to gain personal benefits. So those two things are completely independent. However, in my mentoring session, I do answer a question about the astronaut selection program. And I just do share my personal view, okay, as I'm not related to it, but I can share, you know, advices or comments. But mainly my job is to open up opportunity for students, to let them do whatever they like and they are motivated to, and put them on the track for get some benefits out of it, like publication, conference proceeding, or taking part to competition or some other stuff. But the two things are independent.
Okay, very well. So I think it's gonna be time to end. So maybe we'd like to hear a final advice you can give to people who are thinking of applying or who are not quite sure yet. What would be your final advice to everyone?
Do it. Just do it.
Perfect.
Yes, I think for each of you, I mean, there are different things that might help in the selection process, but by far, I would say, I mean, if there is one single thing that has the biggest impact on our chances of being selected, it is simply the fact that we're applying. And you might think that the odds are very, very low for you to be selected, but I think it's the case for everybody. And the only way to have absolutely no chance is not to apply. So yeah, it sounds abuse, and but I mean, some astronauts were selected that maybe nobody would have bet on, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's not just your professional activity. You know, there are things that you might not think of because it's not work related. But that's something that Lucy said earlier about the slackline. But sometimes there are things that you did and you would not think of putting in the application, but that would actually show that you have the right personality, the right skills. So yeah, I said earlier, look at what the criteria are. You can easily find them, and then look in your professional and personal experience for experiences that would help.
Okay.
My main thing is don't compare yourself to others, and the other one is don't, you know, as we've all been saying, don't self-select yourself out. It's up to ESA to decide if you're good enough or what they need. Not even good enough, if you're what they need or not. Let them give them the chance to select you in. It's down to you to put that application in. If you tick, as I say, despite all of the requirements outlined in the vacancy notices, if you are truly motivated and you meet the minimum requirements, but you're not sure you fulfill all the asset criteria, you should still apply. All applications are welcome. Apply.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lucy.
I completely agree with what Lucy said and what's been said so far. I think you can't win the race if you don't enter, and you know, if this is your dream, you'll never know. You'll always kind of think, oh, if I applied, would I have got any further? And I totally understand there are barriers to applying, there are costs and things. Do your research, see if there's any help out there. And then of course, once you've sent in that application, you know, keep on top of what's happening in the space sector, keep on top of, you know, read Tim Peake's book, read Samantha Cristoforetti's book, get a bit of an insight into what to expect so that you're not sort of, you know, caught off guard and thrown in at the deep end, and that you actually put yourself in the best possible position to get as far as you possibly can.
My other one is get someone else to read your CV and your motivational letter, preferably someone who's also, well, one who's good with English and can check your grammar and punctuation, etc., but someone who has also gone through the application form and knows what they're looking for. Yes. I wish I'd done that.
All right. So thank you to all four of you. Thank you to the audience for the questions. I just want to finish by sharing you the results of we had So we had an amazing audience coming from all over the world. So really happy to be gathering you tonight, and can see that lots of people are applying or thinking about applying or going to apply too. On a sadder note, we've just learned the loss of astronaut Michael Collins. So you might know him. He was part of the Apollo 11 crew. He was the one who stayed in orbit and didn't land on the moon, but who was really part of this incredible team who managed the first human landing on the moon in 1969. So we hope he will rest in peace, and wish the best for his family. So this is the end of this webinar. If you want to contact us, or if you're interested in joining SGAC or the Our Giant Leap initiative, you can find us on social media and on or contact us through this email address. And I'm thanking you all for coming here. Thank you to our speakers, thank you, Guillaume, and thank you for our moderators for taking care of the question in the chat. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the application.
Good.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
good night to everyone.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye, guys. Be safe.
Thanks. Bye.